What's going on, people? Welcome back to Blues Fans TV. Welcome to your weekend roundup show. This is the show where we round up all the latest news and talking points from the weekend and from Chelsea's 2-0 win in the greatest derby in English football today, Chelsea versus Fulham. I've got Kwaku, as always. First up, bro, how's your weekend been?
Busy, man. Very busy bank holiday weekend, but yeah, it was lightened up by Chelsea getting a result against Fulham.
Damn right, and if you guys want to see more Kwaku We Talk Football podcast, down in the description below, check it out, like and subscribe. And yeah, let's go straight into the talking points. Obviously, this is going to be based around the Chelsea-Fulham game. A 2-0 resolute performance against a side who, to be honest, at the start gave us a lot of threats. And the first person I want to try shout out after this game was Edouard Mendy for his heroics in the first half. Some of the amazing reaction time saves that he made, especially the last one at the end of half-time from an Olaena shot where he wasn't even able to properly read the ball because there was players in the middle of him, and he was still able to switch into a perfect position to save it. What was your thoughts on his performance?
I think that's the first man-of-the-match performance we've seen from Mendy. He's been great. Obviously, we've not been too sure because he's not been asked to do too much. But he was really, really good against Fulham. In a game that we didn't actually have more ball, they had more possession than us, they had more overall shots than us, and we were tested by Fulham. And if it wasn't for Mendy, we could have dropped points in that game, which was a very crucial game for us. So yeah, great to see Mendy pull off some amazing saves. Like you say, the one where it deflects from an Olaena shot and he kind of pushes it away. But it's not his reflexes, it's the way that he pushes it away from the opposition so they can't follow up with the rebound. So yeah, I was really, really impressed with Mendy, man. He kind of showed up, and we're going to need him to show up. I think against Real Madrid, they're going to have a lot of chances, and it's not going to be as easy as our games in the Premier League have been. So it's good to see Mendy pull off a few good saves to put us in safe hands.
Yeah, Edouard Mendy saving us yet again. I do want to say as well, if the audio sounds a bit weird, I'm sorry, it's just hella windy out here. But moving back on to Edouard Mendy, and we've said for a long time that the reason why he's been performing so well, especially defensively, is because the system that Tuchel has put into the squad. But I also feel like it kind of takes away from Edouard Mendy and his heroics this season as well. Like, he's the second highest for clean sheets in the Premier League this season. I think we have the joint most clean sheets in Europe so far. Hell, it might even be top after Fulham game, I'm not sure. Do you think Edouard Mendy's performances have flown under the radar, or do you feel like we're giving him the right amount of praise?
I don't think he's getting enough flowers. I'm a big Mendy fan. I think that he's asked to do a lot in terms of playing out the back, and as a result of that, sometimes the positions that we're in, it looks a bit precarious, but he's asked to pass out the back. He very rarely goes long. And so in terms of his overall performance as a shot stopper, as a keeper that plays with his feet predominantly, I think he's been absolutely amazing this season, and definitely an upgrade on Kepa, who we all didn't have any confidence in. So yeah, I think Mendy's been one of our best signings of the season for sure, 100%. What do you think about him?
Oh, definitely. I feel like the best thing for Edouard Mendy was that coming here, there was no standards for how he needs to perform, because like you said, we just seen the worst goalkeeping season in Premier League history with Kepa and some of the performances that we were seeing. And Edouard Mendy literally just had to come here and catch the ball. Like, I remember the first few watch-alongs, like, everyone in the comment section was literally saving him, celebrating him catching corners. Like, that's how low the standards were. Yeah. But he still continued to raise and continued to exceed his own expectations. And it's his first season in the Premier League. You have to take into account he's also not really that much of an experienced goalkeeper, because he only really got into a professional level very late on in his age. Yeah. And he's still outperforming himself game after game, racking up clean sheets every single match. Like, for me, I've already said, if it's not Mason Mount that wins Player of the Season, it has to be Edouard Mendy for me.
100%. Mendy's definitely a contender for Player of the Season. I don't think this win is killing us. I don't think you can really look past what he's done. Obviously, Mason Mount is the contender for Player of the Season if you're looking at all Chelsea players. But Mendy's definitely got to be up there. He's been absolutely amazing this season. I don't think there's been a keeper in the Premier League, really, maybe apart from Ederson, who's had a better season than him. He's been absolutely amazing. And like you say, he's probably flown under the radar because Chelsea's vaunted back three since Tuchel's come in, has got a lot of the plaudits. But Mendy's a big part of that. And I definitely think he's brought the best out of Kepa as well. We've seen Kepa come in. He doesn't look like his normal kind of shaky self. He's actually been putting a couple of decent performances, and I think Mendy coming in has raised the levels of our goalkeepers at Chelsea.
Exactly that. We're going to move into the centre-backs now as well. As Christensen, Zuma and Thiago Silva that started. And Zuma gave me a bit of a worry at the start. There was a couple moments where like he got caught playing the ball out from the back. But other than that, I thought it was a solid performance from him. I'm not going to start nitpicking on certain players after a game like that on Saturday. But I feel with how Christensen's been performing at right centre-back, and with Rudiger potentially coming back on Wednesday, I think with a mask as well, but he'll still be 100% and able to perform. I feel like our back three speaks for itself. Rudiger, Silva and Christensen have been amazing the last few games, bar the Fulham game, of course. But when we've played them, they both look so perfect together. And I feel like their styles of play also mesh excellently together as well.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely correct with that one. And I love Azpilicueta. He's top 5 in my top 5 Chelsea players of all time in terms of my personal favourites. But when you look at the back three of Christensen, you see how imperious he's looked. You see Thiago Silva and how great he's looked. And you see Rudiger, who I've been a critic of, but I love the shithousery. I love the bite that he brings. You know what I mean? I love the fact that he's never going to come off a 50-50 challenge worse off. He's going to leave a foot in. He's going to make sure between that interchange, he does something to let them know that he's there. So I actually love how Rudiger's performed this season. And it's almost like for the fans of Football Manager, it's like when you bring in a player like Thiago Silva, you get him tutoring a player like Christensen and you watch the stats go up. And I think you've seen that this season with Christensen's performance. He's raised his level since Thiago Silva's come in. He's seen a player that's in his mould, who's done it at the top for years and years and years. And I think you've seen the best of Andre Christensen. I know you love him as well, man.
We'll say Christensen's improved under Silva. I'm going to say they all have. The way we looked at our front three, our back three last season, I felt like it was a revolving circle of one of them would look amazing and the other two would look shocking. Christensen had his amazing moments and then he just looked absolutely terrible. Zuma had his amazing moments and then just looked absolutely shocking on the ball. Rudiger, I'll be real, he had an absolutely awful 19-20 season. That weren't even a good point. But my point still stands. They all are a revolving circle of just average defenders. Silva's come in and they've all raised their levels. And right now, I'm going to be real. We don't necessarily need a centre-back unless it's a centre-back that walks into the team on quality alone above everybody else. That's the way I see it.
That's exactly it. And like with centre-backs right now in world football, there's a dearth. There's not really as many top centre-backs in world football, really and truly. I know Liverpool have probably grabbed Konate, and then obviously Koulibaly's coming to, like, you know what I mean? There's not that many top-level centre-backs about. So with our roster of centre-backs in terms of Thiago Silva, Rudiger, Christensen and Zuma, I don't think you can really beat that roster. And like you say, unless you're going to bring in somebody who has the level or is at the level of someone like Virgil van Dijk who walks into Chelsea's team, I don't really think you should upset the apple cart. I know we've got players out on loan who can come and fill the void if something happens, but in terms of our centre-back roster, I love our centre-backs at the moment, man.
That's the thing. Like, we have Rudiger, who is mid-20s, Christensen mid-20s, Zuma mid-20s. We have Malang Sarr on loan, who I think is going to need to take a couple more years. Mbuyamba needs to take a couple more years as well. And who's the other? Mark Gay from Swansea, who, if it's any out of the youth players, he's the one that's looking the most right now. They could translate into a squad. And even then, I still want to see him go on loan to a Premier League side. But we have players there already.
What about Fick?
Him. See, this is what I'm saying. Do we need a centre-back? But here's the thing. Tomori's another one where it's the case that if he walks in now, he's definitely fifth choice centre-back. Now I don't think there's a question about it. I don't know how we fit him into the squad in terms of regular game time. I don't think it would be wise to keep him as depth too, because I feel like that ruins his development. So I feel like for him it might be a case of another loan, or if it's too much for him, he might have to be the one that leaves. Yeah.
Well, the thing is, we saw how loans did for Kurt Zuma, because obviously we know that when he first come to Chelsea from St Etienne, he was like primed, and he was touted as going to be one of the greatest centre backs of this French generation, and obviously he had the ACL injury which like scuppered his development. But you saw the loans help Kurt Zuma out. He went to Stoke, he went to Everton, and now he comes and plays regularly for Chelsea. Like, I think loans for Fikayo Tomori won't be the worst thing in the world. I know they are keen on him over AC Milan, but I don't know if they've got the funds to really sign him permanently. But another Premier League loan to a team like Everton, a team that's challenged at the top level, a team like Aston Villa, I think a Premier League loan for Tomori, and then see where he stands at the end of next season, and hopefully assimilate and bring him in, because I really like Tomori, and I'd love to see the youth players kind of get a chance in our first team. So Fick's a tough one, but I think the overall sentiment for both me and you is that we're happy with our centre backs, which is crazy to think, because at the beginning of the season I didn't like any of them, if I'm being completely honest. It's been a turnaround.
Massive turnaround. I don't know whether it's Tuchel or Silva, but regardless, I'm happy with the save of our centre-backs as well. If we move into midfield, I kind of feel like Billy Gilmour played on his own as a lone six. I felt like Ziyech dropped a bit deeper to try and spray a few further passes forward, but it seemed like Gilmour was just isolated on his own. That's why he kind of struggled a little bit in that game.
Yeah, man, like it was interesting because Tuchel's gone with the double pivot the whole time, if it's Kante and Jorginho or Jorginho and Kovacic or whatever it is. But it was interesting to see against Fulham, he changed it completely. Gilmour was the lone 6, obviously dropping deep to collect the ball off the centre-backs. And then you had Ziyech and you had Mason Mount as the roaming 8s who were creating like overloads in the attacking third. But you saw us getting caught. And you saw when Fulham pressed high, we were struggling on the ball a little bit. And that's why we gave up quite a few opportunities in that game. More opportunities than we have under Tuchel in any other performance. So I feel for Billy a little bit because I thought he did okay. But I don't know if we're going to see him much for the rest of the season just because all our games are important, man. Every game's a cup final now, so I don't know if we're going to see Billy Gilmore play much. I think a loan's going to be best for him.
And I kind of thought that going into the game, to be fair, because for me, other than this game, if we look back to a West Brom match as well, those are the only 2 games I could have realistically seen him playing. And that's nothing against him, it's just the importance of the games you have coming up. And Tuchel's going to go for players that he's trusted and he's played regularly, and Billy Gilmore ain't going to be one of those players. I agree with you as well, a loan deal next season to the right sort of team would be the best move for him. But I also don't think it was a terrible performance either, and I agree with you on that. I felt like he was isolated and he struggled at phases, but I also feel like he handled himself pretty well as well. Like, I didn't expect him to come in and be flawless and drop a man at the match performance. I was excited to see how he would play and to see the differences between him and Jorginho, but that's why I thought the lack of experience kind of let him down too.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. The thing about Billy Gilmore is he's brave, man. From when he burst into the team and he had those virtuoso performances against Liverpool and Everton where he was brave and he was playing against Fabinho, who's one of the best centre midfielders in the world, and he was schooling him. And like that's the one thing I'll give Billy Gilmore. He's so brave on the ball, man. He collects the ball in tight spaces. He's willing to be on the half turn constantly and look for the progressive pass. But it was just a tough game for him to come in. Fulham pressed quite high, as badly as Fulham have done some points wise in the league. They are not a bad football inside. And Billy Gilmore playing that 6 role by himself at his tender age could only be a good experience for him. And I think Tuchel does like him, but I think a loan, like we both said, would be perfect for him at the end of the season or beginning of the next season.
Yeah. We move into front 3 now, and I feel like there's 2 different talking points we can have. First one's Kai Havertz, and the second one we'll go into about Tammy Abraham a little bit. But Kai Havertz definitely looks like he's starting to feel comfortable in the Premier League now. Some of the plays he was making was absolutely ridiculous. The link-ups with Mason Mount were absolutely joyous to watch. 2 amazing finishes from him as well. He's... I don't want to say the word composed. It's like a very calm finish about him. And we always see that. It's the same thing as the Crystal Palace game as well. And I feel like if I'm nitpicking, the only thing that I want to see from him at this point that I think he lacks is that aggressive finish. Just like a powerful finish past the goalkeeper. I feel like that's the last thing to his game that he needs. But other than that, this is second half of the first start of his first full season in the Premier League. And if he's pulling performances like this already, like next season looks so exciting.
Man, I think like if you talk to people who are fans of German football, obviously we got enamoured by the idea of Timo Werner because everybody loves a goal scorer, everybody loves a gunman, everyone loves someone who's going to score them 30 goals a season. But if you talk to fans of German football, they're like, nah, Kai Havertz is the one. There's a reason why so many clubs in the world were clamouring for him and we were so gassed that we got him. He just oozes class. He's a proper footballer. Like his touch, his finishing, his vision, his ability to turn on the ball. He's an incredible footballer, man. And I feel like he's only going to get better and better as he assimilates to the Premier League. And I agree with you, not only in terms of the powerful finishing, but also in terms of his demeanour. In the Premier League, nothing is given. I saw somebody stick a tackle on, I can't remember who it was late on against Fulham. When they're 2-0 down against Chelsea, the game's pretty much done and they're pretty much relegated. And up until the 90th minute, they're still putting in challenges. That's what you get in the Premier League. It's not like the German league where like the top 2 or 3 teams walk over the other opposition. So he's got to learn to toughen up a little bit. I know it's a cliche because of the Premier League, but I think when he adds that to his game and he really understands what the Premier League is, I think he's going to be unstoppable, man. I think he's a really, really, really good player.
Yeah, we'll talk about whether he starts up front for us in the next video when we do the preview for Real Madrid. But as a final point, Tammy Abraham, and a lot of us have been pushing for him to get more minutes. He came on in the Westham game, and everyone will just talk about that miss at the end. But I don't want to go too deep into it because then we're just going to go back and forth about was it a bad miss, was it too high? Because that's the thing I've been hearing for the last 2 weeks. Came on against Fulham though. Again, just wasn't that impressive. I hate to end on a bad note, but what was it? 7 touches, 0 passes out of it, and he lost possession every single time. Like, it doesn't look great for him in terms of the argument to try and keep him at the club. And I still want to see him as a Chelsea player in the future, but for me, I want to see him go on loan, and I can only see him go on loan once we sort out this contract dispute.
Yeah, that's the issue, man. Like, I think the contract is a massive issue with Tammy. And the thing is, I don't really even want to judge him on these cameo appearances where he's coming off the bench. He's a goal scorer, and Tammy, we know the kind of personality he's got when we see the training videos. He's infectious. He wants to feel part of it, and I can imagine this is a very tough time for Tammy Abraham. Like, he wants to start, he wants to feel part of it. When he's seeing people that he came up with, whether it's Mason Mount or Reece James or whatever, flourishing, and he's not really playing, and he's not going to the Euros, where you would have thought maybe a year ago, you say Tammy Abraham going to, he'll be one of the England striking options, and he's just not going to go. So he needs a move to kind of restart his career, and I'd love to see him in the Chelsea shirt. I just don't know how likely that is. Like you say, with his contract dispute, with the fact that Tuchel doesn't really seem to fancy him, it's going to be hard for Tammy Abraham to break into this Chelsea team unless we have like catastrophic injuries happen to our front line. So I feel bad for Tammy, man, because I love him, and obviously last season was special with Tammy, Mason, Reece, obviously Billy coming in a little bit. It's just sad that it's gone out the way it's gone out, but I think he'll come good again, and whatever Premier League team he goes to, he's going to score a hat full of goals, because he's a bagsman. He's always been a bagsman. What do you think about him?
Tammy Abraham, I'm with you. I've always rated him, and I feel like compared to the others, he's just a late bloomer. Yeah. I expect him to really start firing and becoming a consistent all-round player around the age of, how old is he now? He's 25. He's 24, 25?
I think he's 23, 24.
23, 24. So I'm expecting this around like the 25, 26 period.
Yeah.
And I feel like the problem with us is, being Chelsea, we don't have the patience for that, especially with him being one of our main strikers. Yeah. So I feel like that's where the dispute is between like the fans and the patience towards Tammy Abraham. Yeah. But I don't feel like he's a dead player or anything like people try and say about him. I think there's quality there. There's a reason why we played him as our main number 9 for the whole season. Yeah. Ends up as our top goal scorer with 16 plus goals for the season. Yeah. Like, there's a good player there. I just think right now he's just too raw all round for what we need. That's why I'm saying take him out on loan to a good Premier League side that'll give him regular game time, because the one thing that'll improve him is development and extra game time, and regards to that, we aren't going to give him that game time because he's too raw for us. Send him to a lower placed side in the Premier League where he can grow and continue to develop himself. You see a different Tammy Abraham next season. That's the way I view it.
100%. Like a club like Palace, especially if they get a progressive manager that comes in, somewhere that he can just feel like he's the man, because I feel like Tammy Abraham needs that a lot. He needs to feel like he's the guy. And being in and out of the team, kind of sharing minutes, I don't think that does him any good. So like you say, go out on loan, get some minutes under your belt, get some confidence as well, because being a striker is all about confidence, and we see that a team at Werner, when you're lacking confidence, you're not going to score goals. And we've seen Tammy's cameo appearances, he's lacking confidence, so he's not scoring goals, he's looking like a bum player, but we know he's not a bum player. He scored bare goals for us. He will continue to score goals in the Premier League, whether it's at Chelsea or elsewhere. So yeah, man, I just hope that Tammy does well, because I love him as a player.
Yeah, we'll hope to see the best from Tammy Abraham as well. But you guys, let us know your thoughts down in the comment section below. This has been the end of your weekly roundup show. Let us know if you agree or disagree with any of our thoughts down in the comment section below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Blues Fans TV. And we'll be back tomorrow for a Real Madrid preview. Take care, and up the Chelsea.